how have your experience, your recent experience in Washington?
Oh, this is the question about how much do I really want to go back to Washington?
How has that experience colored your views on just how effective you'll be able to be as a senator?
You know, I will tell you, it's actually a wonderful question. So the question is, how have my experiences in Washington colored my views on how I can be effective? But it's a wonderful question. I've run exactly one campaign in my life, and that was a campaign to get a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I'm a lot tougher now than I was then. Because I began to figure out how it works. And not in the way that's described. You know, people talk about Washington as dysfunctional, and we hear all these. I'm going to describe what I learned from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So I was in Washington. I was trying to work on accountability in the bank bailout system. I used the tools that were at hand to me. We didn't have much in the way of statutory authority, but by golly, we could do the research, we could write reports, we could hold hearings, we could end up on YouTube. We could do a lot of things to try to put some accountability, and we got some things out of that. One report alone is credited with having saved the taxpayers $8.5 billion that the banks had involved. Not bad for a day's work. But I looked around, I realized the real question is what's going to happen going forward. The rules we're going to write just like we did coming out of the Great Depression. What will those rules look like going forward? And people were talking about derivatives and capital reserve requirements, very, very important things, but nothing about what happened at the family level, what happened at the household level, at the personal level. And I kept saying, but look, this crisis started one lousy mortgage at a time. And if we don't do something to stop that on the front end, to keep us from feeding poison into our financial system, people who built financial models around, I will trick you, and at the end of the day, it will cost you your house. If we don't stop that at the front end, we're just sowing the seeds for our next crisis and our next crisis and our next crisis. So I said, it's true. So I said, there's a way to do this. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, here's my idea. And people said to me two things. First thing they said was, that's a great idea. And the second thing they said was, don't do it. And these were our friends. And the reason they said don't do it, you will be up against the largest lobbying force ever assembled on the face of the earth. And their number one priority will be to kill this consumer agency because it will cost them money. And so the way I heard that was, just try harder. And so I thought, all right, people told me the way to get a consumer agency, you'll never get anything big like that. Ask for something small. Try to get a little amendment slipped in here and a little word change over there and a tiny little piece you could add over here. You might get a little thing on credit cards, maybe a little adjustment in the language on student loans. Ask for something small and maybe you'll be able to slip it in. My view is no. That is not the way to make change. Ask for something big that makes a real difference, but the first people to ask are people. Get people behind you. We organize behind this. You know, there is no PAC for working families making $37,000 a year. What we did is we started getting groups together, individuals together. I just want to say, God bless the AFL, SEIU, Consumers Union, Common Cause, people who came in, groups that came in and said, you know, that's not usually where we are, our first priority, but we can add, we can help. Over time, we had more than 200 groups who were part of Americans for Financial Reform, and thousands of people around the country who just signed up. So that what I came to understand is you figure out what will make a real difference, you get groups organized and individuals organized behind it, and you all push together to make it happen. And that's exactly what happened with the consumer agency. I'll tell you something. I'm going to run a completely grassroots campaign here in Massachusetts, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people will say the reason you do that is because that's the only way to win. And others will say, no, there are other strategies for winning. For me, this is totally different. This is not about going to Washington so I can be a polite senator who in my fourth year does some piece of legislation that, is co-sponsored and nobody cares because it doesn't make any difference. The way I see it is I'm out right now talking to people because I want those people with me, not just in the election, but when I make it to the United States Senate. When I speak, I want to speak for real people all the way around. That's